Viewer beware, you're in for spoilers if you continue this scare.
Okay, so it's me, Bumps of the Night, going to review the last episode of Goosebumps, at least for this season, which, you hear that? Somebody get that? Because I fucking called it. They left us on a cliffhanger. So, yeah, let's talk about the end of what was the 2023 run of Disney's reboot of Goosebumps. So, when it originally dropped, and the 5 episodes dropped in October on Friday the 13th, there was a lot of hate for it, a lot of bashing, a lot of people wanted an anthology. And that's not what we got. We got a connected shared universe where originally each episode was episodic in a way. They explored a character, they explored a theme of a book, and kind of branched out. And personally, I enjoyed that. Then we finally get to like the next week and we get Night of the Living Dummy, great episode. And then we hit the Give Yourself episode. And I feel like that's where the series really kind of got stagnant and started to just kind of lack in the whole, we're not getting any better, this is not really improving. Overall, it was not a bad show. The fact of the matter is, we got some kind of new content 30 years after the series is out. I don't really understand what they were thinking per se when writing this ending. It really kind of fell apart for me after we got closure with Harold Biddle's family and Slappy got yeeted off a cliff. So I guess episode 8. Episode 9 wasn't terrible. You Can't Scare Me was kind of like this series finale in a way. And then we move on to the aftermath, which was the Night of the Living Dummy Part 2, which ended, as I stated last time, Slappy had actually been a magician named, I guess a wizard? Slappy had originally been a wizard or a man who was now imbued with magic named Candu, which we saw glimpses of that in episode 6. Candu was revitalized through a contract with Mr. Brett, because Brett was so worried about finishing this book, and Candu sets off to turn the town into puppet people, which, realistically, they really want to do a season 2, which they were planning all along. Should have just ended right there. The teens are out of town, Candu walks off with Fifi, Isaiah's dad becomes a puppet, black screen, done. That's where the season should have ended, if you really were intent on making another season. Instead, we got a 10th episode, Welcome to Horrorland, which, I mean, a lot of people complained about this, and I'm not saying they're wrong here. It was definitely mistitled. It should not have been called that. It was nothing to do with Horrorland, which I get it. And it was more so just maybe Candu's own interpretation of what he was going to create, because the whole idea was we get a lot more lore, and I'm going to get to that in a minute here, but we get lore in this episode that if he sacrifices 1,000 souls on that burning tower he's been aspiring to build for the last decade, then he can release monsters. And it's like, okay, well, we're setting up for actual monsters. So if we are going to do a season 2, we're going to have a really dark twist, and then we're going to be good to go. We'll have real monsters. The stories can kind of go. Not where it goes. Overall, I didn't need so much lore. Unfortunately, this show started to suffer from the same thing the newer books suffered from. It all just became about Slappy until Slappy became Candu, which I didn't hate but didn't love. It was an interesting twist. Stein said it himself, beginning, middle, and twist. So they hit the mark, I guess. Yeah, I guess now that it's done, I'm left with a feeling of, it's not even bittersweet. It's almost just kind of like, it's like a sucker punch, I guess is the best way to put it realistically. They half-assed it towards the end, made it the Slappy show. It stopped being interesting because it was no longer episodic, and the books never really mattered. And it almost feels like the entire first half was a waste of time. It was just done to establish characters, because in the very end you find out everything that happened, the camera, the mask, the worms, all that bullshit. It was all just Candu's magic. So it's like, the fuck's the point? It started out kind of strong, but it definitely lost its way in the second half. And at this point, I know I was pretty rough on a lot of the fans by saying, like, give it a chance. You guys are just being stupid. And I do stand by that, if you didn't watch it all the way through like I have, then you really don't have a leg to stand on. That being said, was it a fantastic adaptation? No. Was it its own thing? Yeah. The best way I can describe it, it's kind of like when a popular manga gets an anime adaptation, and they can churn out the anime faster than the manga creators making the manga chapters. So they reach a pinnacle point where they're like at the same spot. And the anime is like, well, shit, we're making money. We're going to go this way. And the manga's like, yeah, no, lol. And it goes this way. So now we've got two branching directions, almost like timelines, if you will. And they went their own way. That's for certain. Let's break down the episode, I guess, and then we'll talk about why it didn't work. So at the beginning of the show, we have a flashback to the year 1879. And there's a war happening where a Caucasian soldier is stabbed by a bayonet. It gets blown by an explosion into like a cavern, and finds all this writing on the wall with this picture, which looks very similar to that thing that we saw multiple times, like the burning illusion. Words light up, and he's able to read them, and his wound heals itself, and bam, now we have said evil spirit who is Slappy / this Candu guy. After Candu is saved by this magic, he's seen walking into like a 1920s World Fair where he meets a puppeteer who is creating like wooden dolls like Slappy out of coffins, which nice little reference to the book there. Essentially he tells them that the coffins give them a different kind of spirit. So Candu shows him that he's magical. They kind of forge a friendship. And
Dylan! You son of a bitch!
And they work together. Candu starts making puppet people because this guy's like, I'll give you anything you want. You're famous. You're going to make my shop take off. Well, once this puppeteer guy realizes that Candu's evil and he's doing bad things, he finishes the doll that he was making. He gives it to Candu and then uses the Carew Marie Adana Lamar Lamato. I know I didn't say it right, but he transfers Candu's spirit into the doll. Candu stabs him while this is happening. Our puppeteer dies. Candu Slappy picks up with the kids in Seattle. We waste way too much time on the Margot Lucas love story. You know, he won't talk to me, he's talking to everyone else, boo-hoo, crying, and just waste of time. Anyway, Margot's mom's MIA. Kind of strange, you know, you invite all these teens to your home and then just, I get giving them their own space, but be a parent. So, we recap, Lucas has made it back to Port Lawrence. He goes home to his mom's, like, quick stop for, like, where the food and gas and stuff is in that town. And his dad's there, and it's like, his dad's not dead. His dad was a government agent, and Lucas fell for it, per se. Like, I knew right away. When I saw that, I was like, that's bullshit. It was Slappy using an illusion. So one of Slappy's many spells, or I'm sorry, I keep saying Slappy. It was Candu casting an illusion, one of his many spells. He projects this illusion of happiness. He feeds you a lie. If you buy into the lie, oh, I like this better, and you go along with it, then you become trapped in said illusion. So Lucas, right before the title card even drops, is now a puppet. He's part of the problem. He's been removed from the playing board, which, at this point, good riddance. Your character stopped being interesting after Goey Worm. Sorry, not sorry. I mean, the fact of the matter is, you were kind of making out with your soon-to-be stepsister. Ugh. Call me a hater. Glad he's out of the play. Kids decide they're going to get bagels, and they're coming back to Port Lawrence. And they all split up and go their own ways. Then we have another awkward moment where Isaiah finally confesses his feelings, which, God, Friends already did it. Personally, I hate this shit. I hate the will they, won't they trope. Oh, they like each other, but they can't figure it out. Will they, won't they? Who gives a get together or don't? Wasting my time. Sorry. I'm not into romance. Just not. Some people enjoy that shit. Great. To me, it's just awkward sexual tension between teens. I don't need in the show. It's a waste. I don't know who they're writing it for, but it definitely wasn't for me. It's definitely for nobody who collects these. So, there's my rant on that. Anyway, they tell each other we kind of like each other, but we're going to figure it out in a bit. They go their separate ways. Then Isaiah finds his dad, which we're like, oh, wait a minute. His dad's a puppet, so we know this is bullshit. His dad has a football scout who wants to give him a full ride to college. All he's going to do is sign his name on a paper. And then all of a sudden, his hand's not broken. And he's like, oh, shit. And he realizes, oh, this is bullshit, and he bounces. Then we get James pulling up to his place, and that jock that he manipulated in the Cuckoo Clock of Doom was wearing a cat suit, and it's like, be my perfect date to prom, and he knew that was bullshit too. So then we cut to Margot. Margot is talking to her parents, and they're like, oh, we're getting back together, which again, we know that's bullshit. And actually, Isaiah bursts in and saves her from the illusion, because we find out in each of these illusions, Candu's behind them. It just keeps cutting to him, which, not hating on the actor, but that hairstyle did not work well. He looked He didn't look scary. He just looked like a rapist. I'm just going to say it. Like, that dude looked like I wouldn't let my kid near him at the park or a magic shop. Just saying. I don't even have kids. James, Isabel, Isaiah, and Margot are the only people who are not captured in this puppeteer illusion created by Candu. So they go to find Lucas because Margot still has weird feelings for him. Might as well be a her. He's a little bitch. They go to the shop that Lucas's family owns, and Lucas rides by on his motorcycle. They chase him until the sun goes down, which... Okay, and red flag number 1, they know his shit was destroyed during Going Worms, at least Margot does, so she should know, but whatever. He leads them to the school, and then the puppet parents capture them, drag them into a tent where Mr. Brett is writing. He is now working in partnership with Candu, because he essentially, as Slappy would do, make them his slaves. Alright, so now we're inside this tent with Brett, and Candu gives them illusion. He shows them how he survived the war, where his magic came from, and from that point in time, explains to them that he's going to unleash the hordes of monsters. And they're all like, no, you're wrong. And at that point, he's like, oh, if you think I'm wrong, then I'll just kill you all. From that point, they huddle together, and they go, okay, we gotta stop him. So Candu shows them how he survived the war, and then just leaves them, which is like, he leaves them to fend off Fifi. So he sends in one vampire poodle after them, which again, and Brett freaks out, and he's like, oh, I gotta save the kids, and he stabs Fifi and then turns her into ash using a quill. I don't get it. After that, they're kind of like spitballing ideas. They're like, oh, we gotta find a way to stop him. And Brett's like, oh, my great-grandpa did. Turns out, the puppeteer that killed Candu in the beginning, or transferred his soul, was Brett's great-grandpa. So the whole family just has a weird entanglement with this guy. Anyway, from there, they walk out. Candu sees the puppeteers come back to life somehow. They use this book, I guess, and the dude kind of like plays them. He's like, nope, I made a mistake. I'm switching sides. They're like, oh my god, no. There's your big twist. And then it turns out they were using that spell that Candu had used on all the people of town to... They turn him into a puppet. And it works for like 2.5 seconds because he knows all the magic. It's, of course, he's invincible or whatever. From there, we have the final battle. The book is able to ward off the spells Candu uses. He's got the shadow magic that's like holding them all. So Isaiah's using the book to ward off the shadow magic. He gives it to Margot. Of course, he saves her and leaves the rest of them all tied up. Because after Candu, they wrestle. Candu's trying to light up his puppet tower full of 1,000 souls, which are leaving 1,000 people in Port Lawrence. Food for thought later. Anyway, he wrestles it away. Margot reads a spell and undoes the immunity spell he did on himself during the war, which plot armor as fuck. Too convenient. Some soldiers appear out of the ground, his old, actually fallen allies. They drag him to hell, but not before he gets a shot off and he shoots at Margaret. And of course, Isaiah, being the hero, takes the bullet. Ghost bullet. Because it puts him back in the form he was of a soldier dying, and now he's got a gun. Again, plot convenience. So Candu's beaten. Everyone's no longer a puppet. Everyone's freaking out because Isaiah is holding his shirt. And you don't really see blood. You can tell he got shot, but you don't see any blood, so it's like, maybe it didn't matter. But no, it did. It really did. Next scene, we're at the hospital, and it's been an hour, which, so not to get too deep, for somebody who works in medical, I know for a fact that certain GSWs can be fatal, but the way he took this one, I don't think it would have been fatal personally. But whatever. I'm not actually medical. I just work within medical, if that makes sense. So we get a scene where this doctor tells his parents, I don't know how to tell you guys this, but he's going to die. It's like, oh, it got really dark really fucking quick. And you think at this point they would rush to his side because our kid's dying, but no. Instead, they let Margot go sit with him while they sit outside the window and cry. Plot convenience. So much plot convenience. I hate that. Whenever a book or a story does that, and it's like, literally, it's like common sense is being lost to the plot. Ugh. So, Isaiah dies. Margot's like, oh, you constantly break my heart. I love you. Boo-hoo. And then he just flatlines dead. I was like, wow, we went there. I thought something stupid was going to happen, like she kissed him or told him she was sorry. And it's like, oh, power of love brought him back. But no, he is dead. So she breaks out the book and reads the same spell that Candu used to revive during the war in 1897 or 79, whatever the fuck he did. So he comes back. Last scene is Mr. Brett stumbling into the bathroom, like crying and wiping his face off because he feels responsible for all this. We have this establishing shot where it's purposely not showing the mirror. He's touching his face. He looks up, and his reflection's Candu. And then it cuts. And then we have like a acapella version of Goosebumps by Travis Scott, which, again, fucking called it. Cliffhanger Season 2. Do we need a season 2? No. Personally, I think they should have wrapped this all up right here and there, essentially, since they unraveled the plot so hard with Slappy actually just being an evil, like, wizard man. Not really thrilled about that. Overall, if I was going to rate this series, like the entire, this chunk of Goosebumps, score it 1 to 10, I'm going to have to give it a 5.5 or 6. It had a few high moments, but overall, the ending was so lackluster and predictable, it made me want to, like, almost turn it off. So, I love Goosebumps, I do, and I'm glad we got something new. I appreciate the attempt, but maybe at this point, we don't let our children who don't actually know what's happening run off and write whatever they feel like after doing a line of coke. Looking at you, Disney executives. Looking at you. So, yeah. Can expect we'll probably get a season 2 next October, if I had to guess. Probably will watch it, but I'm not excited for it. Not like when I finished Into the Spider-Verse, or the second Miles Morales movie by Sony, the Spider-Verse movie. I think it was Across the Spider-Verse, maybe. Don't quote me on the name, but essentially that movie that came out in March, the second Spider-Verse movie with Miles Morales as the main character, when they announced that it wasn't over and we were getting like a third part, I was like, holy shit, this was awesome. I was hyped. I was not mad that I had to wait X amount of time to watch the next part. With this one, I don't really care. I mean, I was supporting it for a long time, but I can't sit here and say that this was a great series. It wasn't bad. People like my wife enjoyed it. My wife isn't super hardcore into Goosebumps, so I think your average watcher, per se, would, think it's decent. I'm sure my mom's going to watch it at some point. She's into like stuff like this, and I'm sure she'll enjoy it as well. I think for the average viewer who's not a hardcore fan, this is a decent experience. Somebody maybe grew up watching the show, and it hit the back of their mind nostalgia closet, and hey, haven't thought about it since they were like a preteen. But for the rest of us who are hardcore Goosebumps fans or Gooseheads, I think a lot of us felt lackluster and let down. But I don't think this was particularly meant to be a love letter to us. I think this was an attempt to see where the franchise essentially was in the public's eye and to see what they could do with it after the movies and see if there was still any money to be juiced out of it. I think at the end of the day, this was just a cash grab. I really do. And I hate to say that, but fight me. That's my opinion. So, what you guys think? I'm curious to know. Comment down below. But this has been quite an experience, though. You know, we had 1,000 subscribers while this was all happening, and it was a way to end fall. Now we can head into Thanksgiving, being thankful it's over, I guess. With that being said, I don't really have much more to say on it, except the fact that I'm disappointed that they wasted the title Horrorland on this, meaning that we'll never get a Horrorland, at least not in this. They really screwed the pooch. But in the same breath, maybe it's a good thing, because the way this went, I would rather them not touch Horrorland and just let it be the prolific memory it is. Don't ruin it. You know what I'm saying? I personally wouldn't mind a prop replica of Slappy. Like, if I can get my hands on one of those puppets, I would love to. With that being said, thanks for tuning in, guys. Look forward to Goosebumps Beyond number 2. Keep Out of the Attic. I'm in the middle of editing that story. I've already recorded it. Now I'm just adding sound and music and creating essentially an actual experience. So if you're looking for more Goosebumps and this didn't scratch that itch, give me some time, because I think I got you. With that being said, I appreciate your viewership, and we'll see you in the next one. Hopefully on to bigger and better things. Once again, I want to thank my contest winners. I had 11 of you. One of you bowed out, so I have 10 of you. I actually have gotten 4 of those in the mail as of today. Getting to hear back from another 3. I just got the envelopes I need to ship out the other 2, and we're getting close to where we need to be. I don't think that math, but for everyone who I told you it was being shipped, I'm emailing you the tracking after this. So usually I do some kind of fun or silly outro with this one, but I don't really have anything for that. So instead, I guess I'll just take all my disappointment and disgust from the series and hang on, let me get it right here. And now it's your problem. Don't take some bags. Bye.